Now, cars these days have just become so gosh darn expensive. I mean, if you're in the market for a brand new crossover SUV, you'll be sure to spend a whole lot of money, especially if you want something that's really durable and really reliable. What's going on, guys? Roy Robles here from Zigwheels.Ph. And if you're looking for a crossover SUV without the fluff, without all that jazz, things that you don't really need in a car, this might be the equivalent of an NPC for cars. This is the Toyota Corolla Cross 1.8G. Now, the Toyota Corolla Cross definitely won't be turning a lot of heads, especially with how it looks on the outside, but it's not really meant to. First of all, you've got this grille right here up front. I like how the Toyota Corolla Cross does not exhibit one of those large gaping grills that seems to be the rave nowadays. Instead, you have this simple honeycomb looking kind of grille with a badge up front, Toyota badge, a T badge, and you've got a black lip front bumper right here. Now, these headlamps are not LEDs, they're halogen headlamps. What lights up and serves as DRLs are the park lights that are located right here up front. Now, the headlamps may be halogen, but the fog lamps are definitely not. It has my favorite kind of color scheme when it comes to lighting: yellow up front and white at the bottom, just the way I like it. This red colorway that we have right here, my cameraman told me that he didn't really notice a lot of red Corolla Crosses on the road, and that's because you can only see this red colorway in the 1.8G variant, the non-hybrid variant. Now, being an entry-level variant of the Corolla Cross line, I wasn't expecting a lot from the 1.8G variant. But looking at the side profile right here, it does look like it has even more character than the front end. You've got these muscular looking front fenders as well as the rear fenders right here. I like those 17-inch alloy wheels, by the way. The 18-inch alloy wheels on the hybrid variant has a two-tone scheme to it, and for me it might take a little bit more getting used to because they're nice wheels, don't get me wrong, but on the Corolla Cross it seems like a single tone or a monotone type of color wheel fits the entire build better because it's a regular car. A regular car requires regular wheels, and I'm a fan of those T37s. If you can give me a wheel that's as simple as possible, there we go, that's my cup of tea. Being a crossover SUV, you get the prerequisite black plastic claddings all around right here, up there on the wheel arches, and at the bottom. You've got 161 millimeters of ground clearance right there. Definitely has higher ground clearance than usual. Now, if you're asking me how much wading depth this can take, I think you're asking the wrong question, because if you want to get a crossover SUV, or you want to get an SUV or a vehicle that can wade through extended depths of water, you shouldn't be doing that, by the way. Maybe it's time to get a mid-sized SUV with a diesel. But this one right here, if you in a pinch, of course, need to go through a flooded area, this can definitely do so much better than a sedan or a hatchback, and that's why people get crossover SUVs. The design right here is devoid of any chrome trims, thankfully, because I really don't like chrome trims, especially in a crossover SUV. Here instead you got these black trims right here. You've got a repeater turn signals on the side mirrors, and yes, the Corolla Cross trim right here with the badge is blacked out instead of having a chrome trim, and I absolutely love it. Now, coming to the rear end of the Corolla Cross, this is probably one of the reasons why I think this is the most unassuming vehicle on the road right now, and how much I love it because of that. For example, you got these tail lamps right here. They're not LED tail lamps, and they're not smoked either. They just have this black trim all around so that you can add a little bit more contrast to it. This unassuming spoiler up top, it's not too big, it's not too large. It's definitely just right. And you've got a shark fin antenna up top as well. You got a camera right there. It's got a backup camera. You also have a backup sensor to help you with parking as well. And right below you got a finisher that's finished in red. No fake looking exhaust right here, but you do have the exhaust port at that side in this section. You also have reflectors there, and it's nice. And opening up the hatch, this is why you get a crossover SUV instead of the regular Corolla Altis. You get all this space inside, We don't have a tonneau cover. The tonneau cover is only available for the hybrid model, but once you get a 1.8G, you can get the option to do so, but as it comes right out of the factory, you don't get a tonneau cover. But what you do get is all this space inside. As you can see, I got all my bags. You can even have a water jug right here. If you want to do some chores, you can actually put that right there. My only problem with this though is that the floor liner isn't made of the durable material that I actually prefer. It's made of this thin paper like cardboard or plywood instead of a marine board, which again, I much prefer over this one. There's nothing much to talk about the rear except that it has a lot of space. You got a low loading area right here, so if you need to take your heavy items, yes, this is full of water. I'm that strong. No, I'm just kidding. You can actually put it up top and that's no problems. All right, and if you need even more space, by the way, you can actually fold those rear seats down. They fold in a 60-40 split configuration. All right, so again, no power tailgate. So let's take a look at the inside and see what else can we expect from this NPC car. All right, so inside the Toyota Corolla Cross 1.8G variant, right away you'll get the impression that you're getting the budget variant of the Corolla Cross line, because check us out, you've got a polyurethane steering wheel instead of leather wrap, and there are no contrast colors at all. There's no stitching, there's no silver accents, but you do get a nice control wheel and some buttons to control your infotainment, as well as that tiny screen up front. Speaking of tiny screen, yes, you only get this small monochromatic screen to check out your driving statistics, but you do have a analog gauge cluster to go with it. What might need some improvement though is the touchscreen infotainment screen. It is a 6.9-inch infotainment screen that uses Toyota's old system instead of having that nice new colorful one that we see on the Toyota Rays. This doesn't really have that much to speak of, although it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and that's it. It does power 6 speakers, and it's really of high quality. You really don't need, if you're not an audiophile, you don't need to upgrade your sound system. It definitely works. It's great. What's sad about this though, it only has one USB port right there, and that's it. There are no other USB ports inside the Toyota Corolla Cross 1.8G except the one on the infotainment system. And it's still fast enough to charge your phone. I've tried it, but if they want to charge their own devices, you'll have to purchase one of these. So this is a car charger, and you'll have to stick it right here in, well, inside the center console. This is a cubby hole right there under the armrest. So yeah, that's it. That's also the only other charging port or power port that's right there. You do have some provisions right here, some DINs to install some other electronic accessories. You got one right here that's easy, you can probably easily take out, but apart from that, it's basic, as basic as it can get. But what it does have though is a nice mixture of stuff that you can get from the top of the line model. You've got an automatic climate control right here. It's the first time that I've seen automatic climate control on an entry-level variant, as well as soft touch materials on the dashboard. This is surprising because it has soft touch materials right here on the front of the dashboard, but on top it's still hard plastic. You have this brushed aluminum line that brushes across the dashboard and wraps around the side AC vents. The steering wheel is adjustable for both reach and rake. Now, after reviewing some more expensive cars or cars in the same price point where you can't adjust the steering wheel, that is definitely a godsend, and I like that. The seats are nicely bolstered. It has pretty much the same design as the top of the line Corolla Cross variants, but this one is wrapped in this fabric material that feels kind of rough, if you ask me, and kind of takes in a lot of dirt, especially if you're like me who sweats a lot. I have a lot of libag right there, and it will definitely brush off and wipe off right there. So there are no electronic parking brakes or manual parking brakes right here in the center console. It's because, like the top of the line 1.8 GRS and the 1.8V hybrid models, the parking brake is right here. You do have 3 pedals. It's just that the 3rd pedal is for the parking brake. So it's pretty nice and very robust, and I like it. It's just weird. It's one of the quirks that you have in the Corolla Cross, and the quirks actually carried over to the entry-level variant. All right, so that's all I had to say about this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rear section, or the second row, and see what's what. Right, so right here in the back, second row seat passengers will definitely enjoy a lot of space for well, a lot of head space here. And well, here as well. I could probably fit 3 of myself right here, but it's gonna be a tight squeeze, so 2.5 of me is fine. So try to bifurcate my other one. What you do have is a nice contour on the front seats so that you have a lot of space for your knees. Feet room could use a little bit more work here though. Well, I'm wearing a size 12 shoe. That might probably be the cause of that, but that's okay. Definitely have a lot of room to move around with. It's very comfortable. Seating here in the back is adequate, to say the least, and you've got a huge window right here which closes all the way down. You've got the rear window here on the quarter panel, which definitely helps with visibility. You don't feel claustrophobic inside, unlike some other crossover SUV out there, which we'll be doing a comparison with this very soon. Also, you've got a well, some sort of space to put your stuff in there, but again, there's nothing much here to write home about because again, there are no rear AC vents. You don't have USB ports. What you do have is a nice center armrest, and now this could definitely work. Yes, I see myself riding here in the back for an extended period of time. That's fine. Even if I'm not the driver, I could probably relax in the back right here. These seats actually recline a little bit as well. So yes, this is a very comfortable place to be in. Yeah. I want to compare how the Corolla Cross 1.8G variant drives in comparison to the hybrid variants. This is definitely not going to be as fuel efficient as the hybrid versions, but let's see how this performs in relative to the those top of the line variants. Let's go. All right, so we're behind the wheel of the Toyota Corolla Cross 1.8G. This is the non-hybrid variant of the Corolla Cross. Under the hood, you've got a 1.8 liter naturally aspirated engine, and if you know Toyota, that's their bread and butter. Power delivery is certainly great in this one. It doesn't have a turbocharger under to help the engine move forward, but it really doesn't need to because of how torquey it is. It's got 138 horsepower and 172 Newton meters of torque to play with, and it's made it to a 7-speed CVT, or a continuously variable transmission. The torque band actually enters quite early in the rev range. That's what makes it feel like it has a more powerful engine than it actually has under the hood. So one thing that the Corolla Cross 1.8G has over the hybrid variant is that, like I said, the transmission. This CVT is a 7-speed transmission, so if you want to row through your own gears, there is a manual mode. What it does really well though is fuel efficiency. So in the city, I've been driving this around a lot in the city, and it does quite well despite heavy traffic. I get around 9 to 10 kilometers per liter in the city, but on the highway, that's where this really shines. I get 16 to 17 kilometers per liter on the highway in this bad boy. So NVH levels is particularly good inside the Corolla Cross. Nothing is out of place. You don't hear any rattles. You don't hear anything out of place. Plus the sound insulation is pretty good. Speaking of suspension, this one has a regular McPherson strut right there in front and a torsion bar in the back. You don't really need independent suspension when it comes to a base variant or entry-level vehicle, and especially with that much power, that's fine. That's all right. But it would have added a little bit more comfort and driving and handling performance if it had independent suspension, right? But as it stands, this is pretty well. It works pretty well. The suspension is more on the floaty side. It's not a performance suspension, so you'll feel a lot of body roll if you're driving this vehicle and going through sharp corners. But you're not, again, like I said earlier, you're not going to use this on the track anyway. This is more a family vehicle, and as an everyday drive, it's just great. The way that I compare the suspension and the driving characteristics of the Corolla Cross, it's more akin to a larger SUV than, let's say, a normal crossover. Safety features, you've got 6 airbags, anti-lock brakes with electronic brake force distribution. It has traction control. It has electronic stability control. It's got hill start assist. You got a backup camera. The rear parking sensors as well to work with the backup cameras. So everything that you're looking for in a in a base vehicle, in a base variant, it's available here. It does not have Toyota Safety Sense, a 360-degree camera system, or parking sensors up front. You'll be, well, if you want Toyota Safety Sense, you'll have to spring for the hybrid variants of the vehicle. But that's where we start to beg the question, how much are you really willing to spend for the extra technology? There is a market for people who want a regular car. They would rather save, let's say, 300 to 400,000 pesos on a car that performs quite as well as the top trim variants or even other vehicles if they can choose to omit some of the electronic doodads that you have inside. I would go as far as saying that the 1.8G variant of the Corolla Cross is probably one of the most value-packed offerings that Toyota has. So if you have the opportunity to purchase a Corolla Cross, you might want to consider this variant over the rest or even any other vehicle on their lineup. I like the value proposition that this offers. You've got great quality, and you have well, basically everything that you need. And at the price of 1,312,000 pesos, this thing is a steal. It stands on its own. It doesn't go with the flow. It doesn't follow any trends. This is your Tito's car, and your Tito wants you to know this is a good car. All right, so that's all we have to say about the Corolla Cross 1.8G variant. You have to ride and try this out for yourself, and probably it's going to make a believer out of you. But what do you think? Do you think it has what it takes to do battle against this highly competitive segment with all those crossover SUVs offering so much power, so much safety features? Do you think this really lags behind? Drop me a comment in the comment section down below. And while you're at it, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification icon so you wouldn't miss any of our videos. This is Roy Robles from Zigwheels.Ph, and yes, I'll be driving off right now in this Corolla Cross. I'll see you guys next time.